Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBA champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
The Super WBA, the IBF and the IBO World Heavyweight Champion of the World, Anthony Joshua, has been talking about his legacy, and it's not often he does this. And before, he did say that he can only be compared to Muhammad Ali once he becomes undisputed and after a bit of longevity. But now he says he wants to be compared to the sporting industry, like Roger Federer, who is of course a world-renowned tennis player. But anyway, this is what Anthony Joshua had to say regarding a legacy. I do understand now. I have to play the game if I want to create a legacy. I think I understand now everything I have to gain and everything I have to lose. I've never played a role, but look at the likes of Muhammad Ali, who became a sporting icon. Before, I was happy to just be part of boxing and felt wherever I get to, it was always better than where I started. I never had a minute to reflect. But now I want to stamp my mark and my legacy and be among the likes of Roger Federer. I want to be considered like these guys. I have to carry myself the right way. I want to be like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi and Roger Federer, who competed with the likes of Nadal and Murray. That's where I want to take boxing. There's a lot of clowns in my industry, jealousy and negativity, and I try to swerve them. So that was Anthony Joshua's statement. So, okay, so now he's actually talking about a legacy. But obviously, us as fans, we all want a legacy as well. And obviously, we want him to go on and potentially beat everybody else. And whether he does that or whether he doesn't do that remains to be seen. Now, obviously, there are some giants in the game, if you like, that are around him, that are circling, that want to crack at him because they believe they can beat him or they just want the money. For me, the ones who believe they can truly beat him are Tyson Fury and Joseph Parker, and who knows, maybe they can. But would a loss on Joshua's record count against his legacy? No. I mean, outside Floyd Mayweather, every other fighter, or pretty much, has taken a loss and gone on to become a legend of boxing. I mean, Lennox Lewis, he lost twice, you know, and he came back and avenged both of those losses. And he had a draw as well, and he came back and avenged that draw. Okay, so maybe he shouldn't have lost those two fights, and he certainly shouldn't have had that draw. But things happen in boxing. Sometimes decisions go against you when they shouldn't, and sometimes you get clipped, especially at heavyweight. So taking a loss isn't the end of the world. Now, there's no reason in the world why, for a British perspective, there's no reason why Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury can't go on and become legends, even though they are in the same era right now. Look at Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield. They're coming from the same era. Well, roughly. I suppose Mike Tyson started like a bit before, but you kind of get what I'm saying, is that it's not always one person who creates a legacy. Even when they fight each other, you win some, you lose some. Now, I understand what he's saying about Federer. I think Federer has more Grand Slam wins than any other tennis player currently, or maybe history. I have no idea, to be honest. I'm not a huge tennis fan. I do like to watch Wimbledon once in a while, I suppose, but only when Murray gets to like the quarterfinals, then I'll pretty much take an interest from then on in. But before that, I'm not really bothered. But obviously, I do know who Roger Federer is, and obviously Rafa Nadal and whatever. Now, he says that there's a lot of clowns in my industry who have jealousy and negativity, and he tries to avoid them. Yeah, there are, because there are a lot of people who wish to be where he is. Deontay Wilder, case in point, 39 fights, 9 years in, has all the excuses in the world why Anthony Joshua is ducking him. Yeah, Anthony Joshua's had 20 fights, and what was Deontay Wilder doing at 20 fights? Okay, a lot of people say that, well, maybe Wilder was, his amateur career wasn't that good. And I was on the Boxing Boys last night, and I know Matt from the Boxing Boys really wanted me to get on there. But as I told you before, Matt, you call me, not the other way around. Right. So, okay, so Wilder's amateur experience wasn't that good. So, of course, he's been learning on the job as a pro. It's just taken him 9 years to do it, that's all. But Anthony Joshua has had roughly the same amount of amateur experience, and of course is still learning on the job. When Wilder was 20 fights in, there wasn't even talk of a world title for him, not even thought about. In fact, he didn't become a world champion until 33 fights. In other words, he waited until Vitaly Klitschko retired and then went after a very weak champion in Bermane Stiverne, who had just beaten Chris Arreola for that vacated belt. That's the kind of man that Wilder is. He's avoided big fights all the time. On his 33rd fight, his own management team and Wilder avoided unification, saying they are not ready. Deontay Wilder is still a baby, he's still a prospect, he's still learning, don't rush him. But yet, everyone thinks it's okay to rush the likes of Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury and Joseph Parker, who have all had half fights. So, yes, there is a lot of jealousy and negativity, and Deontay Wilder is certainly one of those clowns. Joseph Parker, I'm a fan of Joseph Parker, and I think he's a machine, as in he comes forward and he can take big punch after big punch, and he can hang with anybody and can beat anybody on his day. For me, I don't think we've seen the best of Joseph Parker yet, and I know a lot of people think that Parker is food, but he's not food. Definitely not food for anybody. Now, that is the fight that looks to be next, and Joseph Parker is, for whatever reason, going after Joshua rather than Wilder. I think we know the reason. It's about money. It's not about legacy, it's about money. So the likes of Parker and Wilder, they can talk about legacy all they want. But if they really wanted legacy, then they would have fought each other by now. Or at least planning to. But instead they both want to crack at Anthony Joshua. And should Anthony Joshua beat Joseph Parker, or should Joseph Parker beat Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, who's done bugger all in his entire career, except cherry pick, beat a weak champion and defended it against people who didn't deserve a title shot, will now be in the final, fighting the winner for undisputed, when he's never unified himself. So for me, that's why I say Parker and Wilder should get it on. Now, Parker is coming across as out of character. Even a lot of his fans are saying that this isn't Joseph Parker. He's a very humble guy. And we all noticed that when he came to the UK to fight Hughie Fury, it was Team Fury and Hughie who were trying to promote the fight and instigate kind of eruptions at press conferences and doing some trash talking. Joseph Parker is very, very humble. But now suddenly Anthony Joshua is here. They're showing footage of Anthony Joshua being dropped in the amateurs and coming out with things about how Joshua was dropped in sparring and how he got dropped against Vladimir Klitschko and wobbled against Dillian Whyte, all this kind of thing. Okay, but they didn't do anything that we didn't know before. So he's coming across as trying to be the bad guy, even though he admits this is why we're trying to be the bad guy, because we want to create a bit of hype, force Anthony Joshua's hand. And unfortunately, as much as I like Parker, this is down to jealousy. He wants what Joshua has. So to be the man, you've got to beat the man, much like Tyson Fury did with Vladimir Klitschko. Again, Tyson Fury, is he jealous of Anthony Joshua? Yeah, of course he is. Again, I'm a massive fan of Tyson Fury. You all know that. But I suppose from his point of view is, why is it that Anthony Joshua is getting all the attention, getting the big paydays and getting all these sponsorship deals, when I'm the guy who beat Vladimir Klitschko to start with? I'm the reason why the heavyweight division is the way that it is, that there's multiple champions, because I beat the unbeatable. And it's a fair point. It's a very fair point. But that's down to promotion. So it's not a case of Anthony Joshua does anything spectacular, or he's a more exciting fighter, or he's a better fighter. It's not that at all. It's about promotion. Whereas Eddie Hearn knew how to promote Anthony Joshua. Matchroom would coach Anthony Joshua how to speak in a press conference, how to come across to the fans as in, I am nothing special, you can do this too. Whereas Frank Warren, McKenzie were almost either guiding Tyson Fury wrong, or just leaving Tyson Fury to his own devices without any kind of coaching. And obviously they were coming across as me, let's talk about me and what I've done and what I'm going to do, that kind of thing. But had he have said, listen, I'm nothing special, you guys can do this too, he would have been a lot more thought of in the public. And listen, don't get me wrong, he's very, very popular. I'm a huge fan of Tyson Fury. I like Joshua and Tyson, and for me, it's almost a shame these guys have to fight, but you know what? They're going to have to get it on sooner or later. So yeah, there is a lot of jealousy. There are a lot of clowns in heavyweight boxing, and the biggest clown out of all of them is, of course, Deontay Wilder, and we know this. I think even the hardcore fans of Deontay Wilder must see that his career has been nothing short of an exaggerated joke. It really hasn't. Yes, he wants Joshua now because Joshua has the money. If it was about unifying, then he'd be going after Parker, not just put in a mediocre offer to not entice him. I think a 50-50 split with Joseph Parker, regardless of how much money it is, winner takes all, as in the winner gets Joshua. But they're too afraid, both of them are too afraid to take a loss to each other, that they'd rather take a loss to Joshua for big money than to take a loss to each other for, in comparison, peanuts. So anyway, that was Anthony Joshua's statement regarding his legacy. You drop yourself a comment below, and of course click that thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.